Now let's turn our focus to Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in a bind, not over something he did, but over something that he did not. This is about his inaction towards China. There's a storm in Ottawa, new revelations on Chinese activities, how China spied on a Canadian lawmaker, how they sought information about his family. The name of the lawmaker is Michael Chong. He belongs to Canada's opposition party. He has family in Hong Kong, and Beijing wanted to know who they were. Why? It seems to be an intimidation attempt. To understand this, I must tell you about Chong's politics. In 2021, he put forward a motion. This was about Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, about how China was treating them. Chong wanted to declare China's actions a genocide. It is indeed a genocide. China is persecuting these people, these Uyghurs. This is well documented. But China denies it. So when the Canadian lawmaker called it a genocide, China put sanctions on him. Then it wanted to put more pressure, perhaps through Chong's family in Hong Kong, which is why it's being called an intimidation attempt. All this reportedly took place in 2021, 2 years ago. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service knew about it. They even knew that a Chinese diplomat in Canada was involved in the plan. So what did they do about it? Did the Canadian agency inform Chong? Did they take any action against the Chinese diplomat involved? Apparently they did not. And that's why Prime Minister Trudeau is on the back foot. Under his watch, an opposition lawmaker was being threatened by China and he did nothing about it. What explains this? Canada's economic interests, apparently. Taking on China would be a costly affair, sacrificing an opposition leader, perhaps not so much. As you can imagine, Chong did not take this well.
With respect to interests, economic and otherwise, I can't think of an interest more important to the Canadian state than the protection and the safety and the security of its own citizens here on Canadian soil. That trumps all other interests.
I agree with you.
It is inexplicable that this diplomat hasn't been told to leave the country already. And I would hope that the deputy minister is informing the ambassador that this individual, Mr. Wei Zhou, should be on the first plane out or declared persona non grata.
Chinese interference in Canada is not a new story, in fact. And Trudeau has been under pressure to act against it for a while now, especially China's election interference. It is said that China tried to influence the Canadian election in 2019. And now we have this debacle. So Canada is trying to act tough. They've summoned China's ambassador to Canada. His name is Kong Pai Wu. He was told that Canada would not tolerate foreign interference. And then Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs posted this. He said all options are on the table, all options including expelling Chinese diplomats. These are strong words. How did China react? Well, they denied all of this, of course. Listen to this.
The Chinese ambassador to Canada has stated a solemn position to responsible personnel at the Canadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and has lodged a strong protest.
China calls the accusations groundless slander. It says its diplomats were engaged only in quote-unquote the normal performance of duties. The Chinese embassy in Canada also put out a statement. After denying the allegations, the statement gets aggressive. Look at the last paragraph. This is what it says. Once again, China strongly urges the Canadian side to immediately stop this self-directed political farce, not to further down the wrong and dangerous path. Should the Canadian side continue to make provocations, China will play along every step of the way until the very end. Play along every step of the way until the very end. Sounds quite combative. So can we expect Canada to expel Chinese diplomats and then China to follow suit? The governments certainly want us to think it's possible, but practically speaking, it may be difficult to decouple, especially in this day and age. What's more likely is this. They'll take tough positions, exchange sanctions, and then try to bury the scandal. Because, like it or not, economic interests usually trump an individual's safety, even if it's a Canadian lawmaker.